Welcome to week 2 of Flying into the Falcons Nest, powered by Indiana SRN. In this episode, I will be talking to Coach Burgess, Coach Dean of the defensive side of the ball for your Falcons, and Craig Collins and I's player of the week last week, Denny Wendling, as we get ready to see the Falcons' week 2 opponent in North White. You are listening to Flying into the Falcons Nest, powered by Indiana SRN. Last week, the Falcons took on the Whiting Oilers in their season opener of the 2021 football season. Now, the Oilers ended up winning the ballgame 26-22, but the Falcons led for the majority of the game. They led 16-12 at the half. And after trailing most of the third quarter, they were able to score and get the 2-point conversion to go up 22-20 with only a minute 30 remaining in the ballgame. Unfortunately, Whiting was able to take over on Frontier's 35-yard line and able to score with just 50 seconds remaining. The Falcons hung in there tough, though, and had the ball on Whiting's 30-yard line with a chance to win the ballgame with 7 seconds remaining. Unfortunately, that ball was intercepted, and Whiting was able to escape Chalmers with the 26-22 victory. Caleb Wagner finished the day throwing 25 passes, completing 13 of them for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, and like I said, that 1 interception. The big one, and what Craig Collins and I named our player of the week, was Denny Wedling, a first-year player on the offensive side. He caught 9 balls for 221 yards. After the break, I sit down with Coach Burgess of your Falcons and discuss not only the recap of the game, but also week 2's opponent in North White. You are listening to Flying into the Falcons Nest, powered by Indiana SRN. Welcome back to week 2 of Flying into the Falcons Nest, and I'm sitting with Coach Burgess. Coach, a very difficult loss in week 1, but I saw a lot of positives out of it as well.
Well, it was. It's hard to lose one like that. Especially when you come back like we did and take the lead with so little time left on the clock. It's tough for our kids, but you're right. We learned a lot about ourselves. Take a lot of positives away from what we did on Saturday.
And the fact that it was a 2A school that you guys kind of led from jump all the way up until, they took the lead midway third quarter, but they also had a lot of different looks than what they showed in the scrimmage with the reverse cards and with the dink and dunk passes.
Well, they did. It's like most teams in a scrimmage. They kind of they don't tend to show their whole hand, and they obviously didn't. But the fact that we were able to get out, I thought we got out very strong. Got out of the gate strong early and did a nice job. And then the way we were able to bounce back after they took the lead from us, we didn't fold. We turned around, came right back down the field, scored, and like I say, we put ourselves in a position to win, and that's what we talk about each and every week. If we can get in the fourth quarter, have ourselves in a position to win the game, then we like our chances. And when it came down to the end there, between maybe some of the play calling from myself and our coaches and some lack of execution from our guys, we just didn't get the job done. But I give our kids a lot of credit. I thought they played extremely hard and, against a very good 2A football team.
And we kind of talked about it after the game immediately, but now a couple of days later, going into tonight's game, the biggest controversy of that game, I feel, was after you guys retake the lead 22-20 with a minute and a half left, you go for an onside kick that looks like, by all film standards, that Whiting and then you guys touch the ball and the referees call it kick out of bounds. How have you felt after being able to sleep on it?
Well, again, I think they did touch the football, and I think that was one that didn't go our way and probably should have. But with that said, we probably shouldn't have put the ball in that position, under those circumstances. We Probably should have kicked the ball. We wanted the ball to maybe be kicked a little bit deeper. We wanted to keep it on the ground, obviously, and try not to give them a chance to set a return up. But should have kicked the ball a little bit deeper than what we did, and that was just it was just poor communication on my part. I didn't communicate to my kicker exactly what I wanted, and that one, as I told the kids after the game, that one falls on me. I've got to do a better job communicating, and we've got a first-year guy kicking there, and this was the first time in that situation, and I just didn't do a very good job of communicating to him what we were looking for at that particular time. So, the call probably could have went the other way, but again, with that said, that still falls on my shoulders.
And again, that's not a knock on the referees. This was week one for everybody. The referees overall did a fantastic job. It was a very clean game, so you have to say that for a week one game where there's a lot of scuffles with the referee, and I know the referee had to come up in between quarters at one point to talk to the clock operator, they were very communicative the entire game. How do you feel like the officiating was overall?
Oh, those guys did a great job. That's a good crew. That's a very good crew we had for week one. And I thought they did a great job of letting our players play. When there were penalties, flags thrown, they did a good job communicating with us on exactly what they saw, what was going on. They're a veteran crew. They'd listen to us on the sideline. They let us coach and we let them officiate. So no, I thought the game was very well officiated. Had no bearing one way or another on the outcome of that game.
Yeah, and that's what you really like to see, is just letting the officials kind of let the kids determine the outcome, and that's what they did. And again, IHSAA has been really good about having those types of officials. They're one of the best in the country, I feel, for that. Now let's go ahead and talk about the game that we were mentioning, Whiting. You said in the pregame that we were going to see Caleb throw. I don't think you expected 25 passes out of him for 254 yards, but he did pretty well. 2 touchdowns and really interception that was a jump ball interception at the end of the ball game.
No, Caleb did a tremendous job. And, we were about 50-50. I think we threw the ball 25 times. We ran the ball 27 times. So, that's what we're looking for this year. It's a different style of offense than what I'm accustomed to running. But I think it's a style that fits our personnel. And, Caleb's perfect for that situation. When he has time, he does a nice job back there throwing the football. And, the added bonus with him, was also our leading rusher. He can run the football as well as throw it. So, what we do is going to center around him, and he's going to be the guy that makes a lot of plays for us this year.
And another guy that I think has kind of jumped into the guy that's going to make a lot of plays is Craig Collins and I's player of the game, Denny Wendling. He had 9 receptions for 221 yards. The only other guy who had positive yardage, at least looking at the stats on Max Preps, is White Reedy with a catch for 4 yards. Denny Wedling really impressed me in week one.
Denny did a nice job. Denny really did. We expected him to kind of be a playmaker for us, but really had no idea to what extreme or to what level he was going to make plays. He hasn't played much offense. He played on the defensive side of the ball for us last year as a junior. So this was all kind of new for him. But Denny's very explosive. He's athletic. He just for a game one, what a tremendous job. Very, very pleased with him. Not only his route running, but catching the football and then being able to do what he did with it once we got the ball in his hands. And, he kind of set the tone to the game, that first carry right out of the gate. He about a 30-yard carry right from the get-go. So we're excited. I'm excited to see what Denny's going to do. He's going to continue to get better each and every week. And I like the guys that we have with the football in their hands. I thought Grant played a nice game for us, had a touchdown catch there, caught another ball over the middle, did a really nice job for us. Colton DeLosh didn't get into the stats, but he's another kid that can catch the football. And, Brock Wasson, we're going to see him this week, mixing in some with the tailback position along as his wide receiver. So we've got some guys that can make some plays. But as I said, what we do is going to send, it's going to go through Caleb Wagner and obviously going to go through Denny at this point in time.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and talk about your opponent. And it's going to be North White. That's not only is it your conference opener, that's a rivalry game. Unfortunately, due to the restrictions of press and the coronavirus and social distancing and all that, we as Indiana SRN weren't able to be at that game last year. Kind of talk about your 4-game win streak now over North White.
Well, I mean, I've been a part of it for 2 years. Obviously, Coach Sailors and his crew, they get the first 2 of those 4-game winning, the winning streaks. So they took care of business the first 2, and then the last 2 years, we've been very fortunate to get out of there with wins. I thought last year was a situation where, we just ground and pound last year with Caleb and Isaiah in the backfield, and it was one of those games that I think was not in doubt from the get-go. We were very physical up front. We did a great job of running the football, and North White was extremely young last year. That's the real scary part about them right now. The team we beat last year, they're just about all of them are back this year, so I'm sure they're very excited for this ball game.
Yeah, and again, Coach Kurt Quaisbarth, he is. This is not only their conference opener, this is their season opener. They didn't play last week, so they now have extra film on you that you don't necessarily have on them. Is that going to change how you kind of run things, or is it still going to be mostly the Wagner winning show?
No, we're gonna continue to do what we do at this point in time. Last week was a little bit of a smoke and mirrors, I guess you could say. We'd never played Whiting before. All they had was a scrimmage tape on us, and and what I have done for 30 years, which is line up in the eye and run the football. So it was an opportunity to maybe throw a little something at them that they weren't ready for. But this week won't be. This week we'll continue to do what we do. And the North White staff, they've got a very good coaching staff. I know they were there Saturday watching us in person. So we're going to do what we do, and that I think you'll see with us each and every week. It's more about what can we do to get better and take care of ourselves, not so much about what the opponent's going to do or bring to the table.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of not only your preparation for this week is going to go, but also tonight's ball game. Heading into, once again, this is a big rivalry for White County. It's going to be you guys and North White, more than likely looking to take that conference championship crown.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of good teams in our conference, and like you said, this is the first week of the conference. North Newton they've since I've been here, they've been the reigning champion. They've won the conference at least the last 2 years. Now, I'm not sure before that, but my first 2 years here, North Newton has won the conference. But we've got to focus on North White. That's our opponent tonight, and that's our first conference game. And if you're going to win them all, you got to win the first one, so to speak. So we've got all of our focus on North White right now.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I'll talk to you more out onto the field as we get ready for tonight's ball game against North White. You have been listening to Coach Burgess, the head coach of your Frontier Falcons, and flying into the Falcons Nest. Coach, thank you so much once again.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome back to Flying into the Falcons Nest here on Indiana SRN. I am with the player of the week last week, Denny Wedling. Denny, thanks so much for joining me.
Yep, you're welcome.
So, Denny, last week was your first week playing on both sides of the football. Last year you played exclusively defense. What kind of was the mentality going into this week?
It was just run hard and do your job. Just catch the ball, pretty much.
I mean, you really caught the ball. Out of Caleb's 13 completions, you had 9 of them for 221 yards. Do you two really have that good rapport both on and off the field more than, some of his other targets last week?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You also opened the game with a big run to start the game. It was really impressive on how your blockers really started that off for you.
Yeah, that was really good. I got the ball and I ran real hard.
So kind of discuss what was the biggest thing for you and Coach Dean on the defensive side of the football when it came to stopping those, 5 to 7 yard passes that Whiting was able to throw in the second half.
Ooh, I mean, so we have Tampa in the plan, so I just kept the flat, where I tried to, and for when they ran through around the flat and stuff, just pretty much just sitting there on Tampa was kind of my job.
Yeah, I mean, you did really well. What have you kind of seen from North White coming into tonight's ball game that you're gonna try to really stop both on or stop defensively and try to make a play offensively?
I mean, they're just like they don't seem that good. From when I watched, they're kind of slow and stuff. The corners, I know I can see me running some long throws again and catching them and playing defense. I think we're just going to be pretty much doing the same thing. They're not too much different.
What has the biggest thing for you have been between, obviously you playing offense, but besides that, what has been the biggest adjustment for you coming from your sophomore to your junior year? Or sorry, your junior to your senior year?
What has been the what? Sorry.
The biggest adjustment that you've had to kind of overcome, not only playing both sides of the ball, but from being a junior to a senior this year?
I mean, we didn't change too much. We added just one more kind of defense thing, but it ain't too much. It's still what we pretty much done last year, but I just pretty much go even harder. I know it's my last year, so I have to give it my all. And I care a lot, and I've been putting in some extra work and stuff.
All right. Thanks so much, Denny. You have been listening to last week's player of the game, Denny Wendling, on Flying into the Falcons Nest, powered by Indiana SRN. Welcome back to Flying into the Falcons Nest. I'm sitting here with not the coach of North White like I expected, but great guest nonetheless, coach of your Falcons on the defensive side of the ball, Derek Dean. Coach Dean, thanks for sitting with me tonight.
Yeah, no problem, Justin. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, you guys, there was a couple of question marks heading into the game against Whiting, a team that you guys never really saw before. Just kind of go over what you kind of expected going into that ball game.
To be honest with you, I wasn't really sure. I think when you see a team that you've never seen before, we were unable to track down any film on them, speaking to their side. So you watch a scrimmage, you're not really sure what you're going to get. If that's going to be what you're going to see, or if a team has been vanilla. I know in our scrimmage, Troy stayed in the I formation the whole time, and then came out 3 wide receivers, single back in the shotgun. So I had heard and read the Indiana Football Digest and kind of it sounded like it's pretty consistent with what they're doing. So I expected a physical team. That's what I saw on film. From us, I wasn't really sure. I know that I had a lot of guys coming back, but there were some guys that hadn't played a lot that were going to be a big part of that. Ryan Hindy, Bo Hall, stepping in for Nolan Mears at defensive tackle. Brock Wasson kind of started the year last year at corner, kind of faded out. I think we kind of overloaded him. Seeing how he rebounded, had a great game out of Brock. And then my safeties, Drew Woods started at one of the safeties in the sectional game, but that was his only starting game. And then Colton DeLosh started at the other one. Both those guys are sophomores, so I'm really young in the backpack. The safeties are all new. So besides, like I said, Drew having that one game. So just kind of seeing what those guys do. Zach Wells, the linebacking core was all back. So I kind of knew what I had there. Those guys have gotten bigger and stronger. So I was excited to see if the physicality came along with that, getting bigger, stronger, more confidence. And I think it did. I was really, really happy with the way that Justin Schroeder played, with the way that Caleb Wagner played. Like I said, this was probably the most physical and the best tackling the defense has been since I've been here. So that was that was definitely one positive in a Saturday when there wasn't a lot to be happy about.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough game, but I'll say this, that you guys really battled the entire 60 minutes instead of kind of what happened to you guys against North Newton last year, another bigger school, two-way school on both sides. You guys kind of folded last year. This year, I was really happy to see, even when you got down early in that third quarter, you were able to still battle both offensively and defensively. You and I kind of spoke before the game about Justin Schroeder, that one of the main guys you were excited to get back this year. You said, if I'm not mistaken, that if you could put 5 guys on each of the hats on the offensive line and have number 70 roaming free, I'll take that every single time. And he kind of proved you right. He had 13 tackles, 8 of them solo. So that's really impressive from Schroeder.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal kid. And I really thought last year when we made the move to him to Mike, our defense kind of changed. He is the engine that makes it go. If you can't block Justin Schroeder, good luck moving the ball against us, because he's everywhere. And he's just as good as gold. I can relay to him throughout the week what I want on defense, and he's my eyes and ears out there. He tells me what's going on. It's really like having a coach on the field. He's fantastic. He gets people lined up. He knows what everybody's supposed to do, and he just puts in the time. This is a kid that had an unbelievable offseason. Unbelievable. I think he played at about 215 last year. He's playing at about 230, and I can promise you none of that weight is fat. He has gotten stronger. He has gotten faster. Just an unbelievable kid that's so much fun to coach. He wants to be coached, and he's going to do whatever you ask him to do. He kind of tweaked a hammy during the game and was kind of wavering. I just said, Justin, like, I got to have you, man. And he dropped it, and he gritted it out, and 13 tackles on not being 100% is pretty good.
I meant to ask Coach Burgess after the game and later on when I sit down with him. You guys stayed mostly hydrated. You know, when it got down to that fourth quarter this year, last year against Attica, both teams were falling due to hydration issues. This year, yeah. You guys were a lot better at staying hydrated when they really started to falter, I think, a little bit down the stretch. And again, I think that goes to you, Coach Burgess, Coach Tex, all those guys, to make sure that you got that through to them this year. Yeah,
no, we do. Coach Burgess does a fantastic job of that, of stressing the importance of that. But not only him, the trainer is always on Kara. She's always on the guys about making sure they're getting their Gatorade, their water. But this group of guys is just a little bit different than what we've had. This is our first group that, Troy and I really feel like this. There's more guys that have played for us than have played for a previous coach here. These guys have really taken on, kind of the embodiment of Troy and I, and they just do the things that they're asked. They don't ask questions, and when they're fully bought into Troy and I, so when we stress, we got to hydrate, we got to do this stuff. You see the guys carrying water around at school. They're just doing the little things. It doesn't show on Saturday, but I think that moving forward, I'm really excited for this group. We have a good group of guys, and when you have guys that are bought into what we're trying to do, it makes coaching pretty easy.
Yeah. Okay. So let's, we kind of touched on the loss, and even though it was a good, I'll call it a good loss, even though there's no such things really. Let's focus on this week's opponent in North White. What kind of have you seen? This is your third year facing them with Troy, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of, especially since you changed how your defense looked when you played them last year to how you played even LCC and Whiting this year. Talk about how you're going to kind of attack their quarterback system, even though they got a lot of guys returning as well. Yeah,
this team is going to just keep getting scarier. That group of sophomores that they have is really, really good. That's, I think, kind of led up by the quarterback, Eli Quaisbarth. He's a kid that if we let him get loose, he can wreck a night. I really think that. throws a decent ball, but really his legs scare me. We're going to have to keep him under control. They got a couple backs, I think, that are pretty good. Once again, this is a team that we only have just scrimmage film on because they didn't play last week. So I have 2 films from last year, but I really do think North White is on the up and up. I know this group, like I said, of sophomores was really successful in junior high. And we definitely have our eye on them and keep them. So I'm not sure. I think it's number 20 and 34. But the guy that I'm looking to shut down is Quace Barth. I think that team kind of goes where he goes. If we can get him off his spot, make him uncomfortable, I think that we have a pretty good shot of shutting that North White offense down. So.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I saw too. It's really hard to see what your opponent gives you during scrimmage because obviously you don't want to tip your hand to first week's opponent and whatnot.
Of course.
But your secondary, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, you really switched to like a 2-high type of look. And again, those sophomores, Drew Woods and Colton DeLosh, they really stepped up well for you last week. Let's hope that they continue to do so this week.
Actually, it's going to be another new look back there. Drew, unfortunately, is a little banged up. So it's going to be Grant White back there, which he's gotten plenty of reps throughout the summer and stuff. He's played most of the second half, did a great job. But yeah, I think that I'm not worried about him. Like I said, Colton, those guys, they're ready for anything that you throw at them. They good reps in practice, and they know what they're doing. That's the main thing is, I would be scared if, we're at practice and we changing coverages, changing whatever it is, and they were running around like they didn't know what they were doing. But these guys have been so locked in and so focused. Like I said, the result doesn't really, I think, show how far this team has come from physicality, from their mental attitude, just everything, I think is really starting to culminate to where we want to be. Guys that are mentally a little bit more mentally tough. I think mental toughness, like we talked about when we play a bigger team. Whiting, they were good, but the thing that impressed me the most is how physical they were. And I thought for the most part we matched and hung with that physicality. And I think so many times the last 2 years we've gone through a softer part of our schedule in the beginning where we've not gotten tested physically. The North White has a lot of good athletes, not always the most physical team, but good athletes, guys that can run, whether that be Cade Garrett, Eli. They've had a couple other guys, a couple good receivers that can run, but we don't really get punched in the mouth until we get to North Newton. And I think that physicality and being able to match a Whiting who was physical is going to pay huge dividends as we get into conference play. As we see North Newton down, obviously we're not looking past anybody. But just I think that first game, Troy and I talked about it, that it's so much better to have a game like that than to play like an Anderson Prep or somebody that you just roll over. We found out what we have. It didn't turn out the way that we wanted it, but I'm really excited for this defense and to see what, making a little bit of tweaks, those week 1 jitters, week 1 mistakes. We get those ironed out. I think we're going to be a pretty good unit, and I'm ready for anybody that wants to come. We're ready for anybody, and we're not scared of anybody. And I can genuinely say that this year. I think in the past, I think we've said that. The guys have said that, but they didn't really believe it. But I think with the offseason and weight training and getting stronger as a team, I really don't believe this team is scared of anybody in there. And they showed that against Whiting. That's a team, like we talked about. It's a bigger school, more physical. In the past, we've kind of crumbled mentally, and that wasn't the case. So that was exciting to see in that aspect for sure.
Thank you so much, Coach. This has been Coach Derek Dean, the defensive coordinator for your Falcons. Again, always a pleasure, Coach. I'll talk to you more later tonight about kind of what we can see from you future-wise. You are listening to Flying Into the Falcons Nest here on Indiana SRN. You have been listening week 2 of Flying Into the Falcons Nest. I want to thank special guests, Coach Dean and Denny Wedling. And of course, I want to always thank Coach Burgess for sitting down with me. In next week's episode of Flying Into the Falcons Nest, I'll sit down with both coaches and the player of this week's game as we discuss week 3 and the opponent Fountain Central Mustangs. Thank you for listening to Flying into the Falcons Nest, powered by Indiana Southern, and have a great night.